Hello, my friends. This is Andy coming to you live from Brea, California. Got a quick show to come on, and we didn't really even call it a show. I would say it's a public service announcement regarding the school board meeting, which is tonight at 7 o'clock at the Placentia Yorba Linda School District. The address is in the description, but I'll give it to you anyway. 1301 East Orangethorpe Avenue, Placentia, California, 92870. Once again, that's 1301 East Orangethorpe Avenue, Placentia, California, 92870. I would like to just encourage any parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, anybody that knows a kid that lives in the Placentia Yorba Linda School District, be there to fight for our kids, to fight for parents' rights, to be able to determine what health protocols that we want to place on our children, to determine what it is we want to teach our children in regard to morals, what is wrong and what is right. It is not the school's duty necessarily to teach those things. Now it's to enforce, how to get along with others, look at each other as an American, not as an individual race or an oppressed or oppressor. That is not their job. Their job is to teach good quality, sound behavioral issues, just in other words, in getting along well, working well with others, play sports with good sportsmanship. That's the role of our schools, not to take the place of parents. I have 6 kids. 5 of them are going through the Placentia Yorba Linda School District, elementary, junior high, and high school. And I have a duty to teach my children those things. I have a duty to teach my children about sex education, about there being 2 genders, about there being, a history of our country of slavery and racism that no longer exists as much as everybody wants you to believe it does, in a systemic way. Now, of course, there are some racists, that is for sure, but it is our job as the parents to be able to share that with them. Now, history of the slavery that occurred, of the Civil War, and the different issues in which that war was fought for, to Martin Luther King and what he was fighting for, which was amazing that a man can make such a huge difference in our country, along with a number of other rights activists that wanted to make sure that all men were created equally. Now, that does need to be taught. Now, you're not going to teach my child who is part Hispanic, part Irish, who has a stepmother who is Persian, who has a father who is in law enforcement, who has a stepmother who's been in law enforcement. You're not going to teach them that their parents are racist, that they are horrible, nasty people that hunt down black men. You are not allowed to teach that. So that's the reason I'm bringing this to you today, is that we need you all to come to, I'm in Brea today, David. Thanks. Yes, hopefully you can make it. It's an important topic. Now, again, regarding health issues, it's my job to determine whether my children need to wear masks or not. All my children are healthy. They have all already had COVID. I've had COVID. Their stepmother has had COVID, Hedia, and their mom has had COVID. We all have antibodies for the most part. I haven't had all the kids checked. But again, as we know since the very beginning of this pandemic, is that the COVID does not affect children in the same way that it attacks older people with pre-existing conditions. Since May 2020, I have attended a church that's been open, unmasked, no social distancing. Thousands of people attend every week. Up to about 10 to 12,000 people attend every week. The children go into their schools, their appropriate age group classrooms, unmasked, unsocial distance, and that's been going on since May 2020, over a year ago, over a year. So a year and a couple months they've been going, and there's been no major outbreaks. None of the children that attend nor any of the volunteers have died from COVID. So we know that what they're trying to sell you is a bill of goods. There's an interesting law here in California that has just recently been brought to my attention, and I wanted to bring it to yours because it may be an important one for those of you that plan on speaking tonight at the school board meeting, may want to know and may want to recite. And I'll talk a little bit more about it, but let me go ahead and bring it up on the screen here so you can see it. And it is Education Code 51530, Education Code 51530. And this is in the state of California. You see this California Legislative Information. And this is California law. And it says, and I'll read it here. Let me see if I can fit it into the screen. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Yep, it all fits in there now. Okay, so it says here, no teacher giving instruction in any school or on any property belonging to any agencies included in the public school system shall advocate or teach communism with the intent to indoctrinate or to inculcate, sorry. That's a rough word, but it's an important word. I'll come back to that word later. Inculcate in the mind of any pupil or preference for communism, in prohibiting the advocacy or teaching of communism with the intent of indoctrinating or inculcating a preference in the mind of any pupil for such doctrine. The legislature does not intend to prevent the teaching of the facts about communism. Rather, the legislature intends to prevent the advocacy of or inculcation and indoctrination into communism, as is it hereinafter defined, for the purpose of undermining patriotism for and the belief in the government of the United States and this state being California. For the purposes of this section, communism is a political theory that the presently existing form of government of the United States or of this state should be changed by force, violence, or other unconstitutional means to a totalitarian dictatorship, which is based on the principles of communism as expounded by Marx, Lenin, and Stalin. So this is a great law that was brought to my attention, that I think it's an important one for us to remember, that going forward, if we find out any of the teachers are violating this law, that we can, I believe, in an educational code. Now, as a police officer for 21 years, I should know this, but I will find out that we can place the teacher under private person's arrest. We can report them to the State Board of Education, which, again, is not our friend necessarily. But if enough parents understood this law and applied this law, when we found out if a teacher, a vice principal, even the school district supervisor was encouraging the teaching of any form of Marxism, communism, Leninism, that we apply this law. Now, the punishment, as far as I can tell, is suspension and in some cases, the removal of the teacher from being able to teach in our public schools. Again, this is an important law. When we look at organizations such as the Black Lives Matter organization, which is based on Marxist teachings, the founders said that they are students of Marxism, and that BLM is a form of Marxism. That is what is going to be brought into the curriculum when it comes to critical race theory or ethnic studies or whatever bogus name they're going to try to give it to cover it up. When it gets into this area of Black Lives Matter curriculum, then they are violating the state law as far as I'm reading this and understanding this law to be in effect. So print this out. You can just simply type in a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search, which is I use DuckDuckGo. Again, you're going to want to type in Education Code, California Educational Code 51530. It will come up, and you will see some other important aspects of that particular law. So again, it's an important one to understand. It's an important one to keep in mind that moving forward, that we need to make sure and be there tonight to voice our opposition to mandated vaccines. Again, masking. You can have your kid wear a mask. I could care less. You can wear a mask while jogging. You can wear a mask while you're driving. I don't care. But mandating my child to wear a mask that doesn't work, that is harming them more than is doing any good, Again, more children in California have committed suicide than have died of COVID. More children, that especially healthy children. Now, children with leukemia have died from COVID, but healthy children are not dying from COVID in the state of California, or children without pre-existing conditions. But a large number of children that were healthy prior to the pandemic have committed suicide. I have families that I know. I mentioned this the last time, and a teacher laughed at me as I spoke, laughed out loud to the point where everybody in the room could hear it when I talked about children committing suicide. She thought it was funny that children were committing suicide, apparently. But we understand that the masking, the Zoom teaching that was going on for a year was detrimental to the health of our kids. Continuing to mask them, children that especially have mental health issues is only going to make those mental health issues worse. Mandating children that have antibodies, such as mine and such as I have those antibodies. The science says that we are not to be vaccinated, that it actually can reduce the benefit of the antibodies. That it's not necessary, since if you carry the antibodies, you are more protected from COVID-19 than getting the vaccine. So it's this silliness of mandating a vaccine also needs to be addressed. And of course, like I said before, the CRT, critical race theory, and all the other names they're trying to give it so that it doesn't sound like critical race theory. And the lie that it's not being taught or not being encouraged to be taught here in the state of California, and other states for that matter, needs to be addressed tonight. The last thing I want to talk about is that we need to really begin to look at who we're going to bring into the school board during the next election. I have emailed the school board, the school district, and a number of other people that are in authority, let's say, over at the school district. And strangely enough, there's typically only one that replies to every one of my emails, and sometimes a second. Of course, there's Leandra Blades, who responds every time I send an email to my questions about what's going on about the mask, what's going on about the vaccines, what's going on about CRT and that type of stuff. And she responds every time I send an email, which is remembering, and she remembers that it was the parents and the people that live in this this area that voted her in, that she's working for us, and understanding that when we ask a question, that it should be responded to when possible. If she's getting, of course, bombarded by messages that can't simply seem to get to them, that's one thing. But that's not the case. If Leandra can respond, why can't any of the other people respond? None of the other school board members, other than Sean Youngblood, which Sean Youngblood did reply to one of my emails recently and actually asked me to call him, and we had a great conversation in response to my email asking about mandatory masking and mandatory vaccines. Now, I did send one out about this critical race theory and ethnic studies and what was happening with that and who was going to be fighting against it. He did not respond to that one yet. He may not have had a chance because he has a real job like most people. He's a fireman, but I've not got a response from him on that. But the most important thing you need to know, no one else has responded. Not one other school board member has ever responded to my emails. My emails are not inflammatory. They're not, I would not think that anybody look at them as a crazy person type them. Simply saying, this is the issue. What is your stance? I want to know what your stance is. There's another issue. What is your stance? Here is some evidence and some science that supports my position on why, and I sent several scientific studies in regard to masking, scientific studies in regard to vaccines, scientific studies regarding children that is readily available. Not only our country has done scientific studies, but Israel and some of the Asian countries and other countries have done some great studies that I have sent them, just so, because apparently they're not reading them. Apparently they don't care. And so I thought, let me just make sure that you saw this, because this is what the science says. If you're going to follow science, here's what the science says. Here's what the study says about masking children, how it harms our children. And what is your position on this? Only one And a second on occasion has responded to my emails as a parent of 5 children that currently go to the school system. Again, elementary school, junior high, and high school. Only one consistently responds, and a second, Sean Youngblood, does respond on occasion and actually asked me to call him so we could have a phone conversation that went really well. But not once has any of the other school board members responded to any of my emails, nor has the superintendent that currently is in position. The past superintendent did, but he is no longer there. The current superintendent for the Placentia Yorba Linda School District has never responded to any of my questions about what is going on in our school. As a parent of children that go to that school system or that are in the school system there at 3 different schools, you would think that I would get at least, hey, I'm going to get back to you. Let me research this some more. Hey, I got your message. We are working on it. Let me get back to you on that. Hey, come into the school district offices. We can meet. No, nothing. Are you really that busy that you can't? How about if there's so many people responding? Hey, let's talk about it at the next school board meeting. How about that? How about some response? Not even a response. They didn't have even their secretary, assistant, or some student that may be volunteering did not even have the time to have somebody like that respond. It is really, really crazy to understand the politics here. That these are my kids. They are not the school district's kids. These are my kids. They are not the school board's kids. These are my kids. They are not the school district's kids. If I said that twice, I'm glad to say that twice because they're my kids. I am responsible for them, and I need to know what it is you're going to do with them while they're in your care, only your care while they're at school. We have enough money in the school district in the form of the different families that live here that, you know what, if we need to, we could start our own school and we'll start our own private school or our own school homeschooling network of families or friends that can do that. I'm not a teacher. Neither is my wife, but I'm sure that there's enough people here that if we gathered our resources, that we could just simply pull all of our kids out of the school and do something different. This is ridiculous that parents are not even being heard from. Parents are not even being considered in some of these decisions that are going on in the school. And so you need to be there. Let me see who's Deborah Sweeney's up. Now they are saying 12-year-olds don't need parental consent to get the OPPS, the oops. Oh, I got you. Abortion is what I think you're talking about. The I thought OPPS was an acronym for something. Yes, the oops, I made a mistake and now I'm pregnant. Yes, it's crazy. I mean, there really is. I don't know what's going on in this country. It is laughable if it wasn't so sad that was going on. No, not okay. So no problem. It's shameful. It is shameful. And then you asked, Deborah asked, can you please send me all those so I can show my daughter all those what's? Oh, are you talking about the law, the state law in California? Yeah, it's in the description. In the description, I put the entire law in the description of this Facebook Live. So you can find it there. You just copy and paste and send it to her. If you still can't find it, then let me know and I'll make sure and send it to you in Messenger. It is, let me also just go ahead and put the link. That way you guys don't have to type it in. I know sometimes it can be a hassle on the phone. I hate typing stuff on my phone, by the way. So let me go ahead and put this. Oops, let me get rid of that first. I'm going to put the link for the law in there. Again, this is California Educational Code for teachers not allowed to teach communism to our children and encourage them towards communism and against the United States of America. I think it's a great law. It's been in place since the 70s, from what I understand. So it's been around for a long time. How it's not been on my radar before, I don't know, but it got brought up on a Facebook post that I just recently posted. So check that out. All right. So be there tonight, 7 o'clock. And I'll give you the address one more time. Be there tonight in Placentia at 1301 East Orangethorpe Avenue, Placentia, California, 92870. 1301 East Orangethorpe Avenue, Placentia, California, 92870. Starts at 7. I remember that the last meeting that I went to that had a pretty large crowd, I got there at about 6. and it was pretty crowded. I was fortunate that some people, I was not able to get inside right away to where the meeting actually is taking place. And I was fortunate that some people recognized me from these shows and gave up their seats so I could sit in and record it. And not record it, I actually played it live as it was happening. So I got lucky last time. So I can tell you that if there's going to be a crowd, you can probably bet that it will be difficult to actually be inside the actual board where the board meeting takes place. There's the hallway and then outside. But I think in regardless of that, being there in the numbers to show the school district that we are serious about these issues that are going on in our schools right now, that the numbers, if it flows out into the parking lot and the numbers are huge, that it will make a statement. So regardless if you think that you're going to be able to be inside or not, I think it's important for you still to be there to show a force to be reckoned with in regard to the parents. And again, this just isn't for the parents of children that go to school. It's also for the grandparents. It's for the aunt and uncles. It's for the people that live in the community that we expect that the schools in the community where you live is doing a good job of teaching our children about being great Americans, about that they're not oppressed. They are not oppressors. They are Americans. That we trust that the good health of our children is important, and they must not be masked, at least not be mandated to mask, and they must not be mandated to get the vaccine, considering some of the health issues that have come up because of the vaccine, and because it's unnecessary based on the science. It's just unnecessary. If you want to mandate the teachers for employment, which is different than attending a school, then do that. Especially if you have teachers that are in their 60s and 70s that may have some underlying conditions, or people that are in their 20s that are teaching that have some underlying conditions, then you want to make sure and protect them. That again, but that's an employment as opposed to an attendee in school. Oh, I got you. But also for abortion too, I think the same age goes for teachers being able to talk to a student about where to go get an abortion, and they don't have to tell the parent in making it available to them. That is also 12 years of age in addition to the jab. All right, my friends, thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you tonight at the school board meeting when you can get there. Please share this out to anybody that you think is in the area here. They're here in Orange County. Placentia and Yorba Linda is surrounded by cities like Fullerton, Anaheim. On the east end, Yorba Linda runs into Corona and Riverside County. So that's the east end, and then up to Chino Hills. So it's Chino Hills and LA County. So this area is where it is. So if you know anybody that lives in those surrounding areas to support this and to show force, I think that would be amazing if you could forward this out to some people so they could see it, to understand the law that we recently, at least that I recently came across, that I think is an important one. So make sure and share this out the best you can. Tell people about it. Let them know to be there. Just come by and just take care of it. So we can do that. All right, my friends. Deborah says, "Oh my gosh, we need God." Absolutely. Thank God we have God. There's a lot of people that don't, and that's one of our problems. All right, my friends. We love you. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.